when I called my doctors a week ago to ask them to give me an appointment so that I can speak to a doctor about the fact that I feel like I have ADHD. They gave me a phone appointment and was like, yeah, so speak to you on Wednesday. That's me, Pip. I was diagnosed with ADHD almost 2 years ago, and let me tell you, it was not easy to get a diagnosis. So not easy that I ended up documenting my diagnosis journey on TikTok, where I found a supportive, thriving community, and also tried to help those seeking a diagnosis by sharing my own experiences. Because having ADHD comes with daily battles with imposter syndrome, finding this community was vital to having a validating space for me. A recent BBC panorama has put ADHD and how it is diagnosed into the spotlight, and it's got people talking. And because multiple studies suggest that less than 20% of adults with ADHD are aware that they have it, I'm going to have a chat with a few ADHDers about their experiences of living with it.
So my big thing is I always try really hard to get organised in stuff. So I would spend like a day in work thinking I need to get my stuff together here. So I'd sit there all morning and I'd make some spreadsheets and I'd make some plans, and it'd be really regimented in terms of this is what I'm going to do for the next 3 months. And then I'd never touch it again. Like I'd spend my morning do it and then just never think about it again.
Throughout my entire life, I just assumed that this was my personality. I've been putting up with my own shit for so long. But as an adult, the one main factor for me was that I've lost jobs. And I've made sort of like careless mistakes. And I think the pinnacle of it was for me was I had a job that I really enjoyed and I really didn't want to like mess it up. The older you get, the bigger the sort of like impact of that.
My diagnosis was in October last year, October 2022.
Yeah.
And it was quite quick, to be fair. Probably the last couple of years before I got diagnosed, what I'd do is I would, obviously, because you see a lot online and stuff about it. So I would decide I need to go and get tested. I need to get looked at. And it would be all I'd think about for a couple of weeks. Then I wouldn't do anything for 6 months. And I'd just carry on like normal. So this went on for a few years because obviously you'd sit there and like you say, you're struggling with work or you're struggling with other things, and it's so visible online. You see so much stuff and you think, well, it's definitely a thing. It was actually the first time I'd ever been to my GP about it, even though it had been ongoing for a couple of years in my head. And I filled in a form. That was in about August last year. I filled in a form and gave it to my GP, and I still never heard back from that form to this day. I think I had to pay like maybe 200 or 300 quid just to be seen.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the money in the plan was like in the treatment, rather than some of the places which charged like £1,000 just for your initial diagnosis. And obviously you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to pay that because what if they say it's not a thing?
Yeah.
Then I've just paid £1,000 for no reason.
The job that I was doing previously, so they had some sort of like health insurance thing with Bupa, and I thought, well, it's so hard to go through the GP, so I tried to sort of like get things in process with Bupa, because obviously, you know, hoping that system would be able to kind of push me through and get the help I needed, because at that point I was just so desperate. I reached out to Bupa, and that was a painful experience in itself. First of all, they determined that because I was on antidepressants a few years ago, that that it was pre-existing condition, and I was like, well, of course it's a pre-existing condition. You know, you don't just get ADHD.
So when you tell other adults that you've been diagnosed as an adult, they just sort of look at you like, well, that's just for naughty kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's the perception of it. And not only is it a diagnosis for naughty kids, a lot of people think that it's effectively a fake diagnosis for naughty kids. So it's been as I expected, really, in terms of who's reacting and how they're reacting. I think a lot of the older generation have done exactly what we thought that they would do with their thoughts. And it's a shame, really, because I think because there's so many preconceived thoughts about it that people aren't really willing to take it too seriously. When like, you know, if you live with it, or if you live with somebody that has it, it can be really destructive, and it can cause like real problems for people.
I feel like it was a really stupid experiment, because you have a preconceived idea, and there's so much research now and stuff available for you to kind of manipulate how, you know, you would sort of portray yourself to have ADHD. It's really damaging to like to ruin the credibility of people who are out there obviously giving diagnosis to people, and because you get to a point in life where you're so desperate to just try and at least sort that out, you know, to be normal and to, you know, to move on with your life. And, you know, it's important work that a lot of these specialists and this stuff are doing, whether they're private or through NHS.
You're dealing with a high proportion of people that were like gifted kids and like clever kids, and they're just sat there thinking, what happened? Like everything used to be so easy. So I think a lot of people, when they see it, like it was a big thing for me, they get a sort of eureka moment in their head going, wow, what if it's that? So in terms of awareness for people that do suffer, I think there could be some positives.
I can't see many positives to it. I feel like they would have been best to have spent some time doing a fly on the wall documentary of someone with ADHD.
Literally.
And just see how it is to live.
24 hours in the life of.
Yeah, basically. It would just be, if they did it for me, it would be me just standing in my living room, not knowing what I'm doing.
I think the biggest thing that I would say to anyone that was skeptical is that they will know a lot more people that struggle with this than they think. If they could look around their groups of friends, there will be 2 or 3 that would fall into that bracket, and you think it's just their personality, because when you see them, they're the happy one, they're the ones that are buying the rounds in, but internally at home, these people could be struggling a lot with this as well. So it can be seen as something that's quite fun and quirky and beneficial to someone's character, but it can be a lot worse than you think. When you first take your meds that first time, I don't know if you got it, but for me, I was sat in my front room and I was like, whoa, everything was quiet. And I think you don't realise you've got a fireworks display in your head 24/7.
I think the main thing that I'm obviously seeing a lot of is people saying, oh yeah, I'm a bit ADHD, or oh yeah, no, I do those things as well. And I think when these things start actually impacting your life on a bigger scale, or even on a small scale, it can really take its toll on you mentally and physically. And I think what should happen is, you know, people should take a little bit more of a perspective of how sort of people can move on in life and just have a little bit more understanding around it. Obviously, I've just said I've started a new job, so my boss has read up about ADHD and has put things in place to help me do my job well. Yeah. I think a lot of like employers or people within education just assume that, you know, you're lazy or whatever. Oh no, we won't give that person a chance because they have ADHD. It will, you know, disable them from doing something, but it can be an advantage in some ways.
Do you think it should be more accessible for adults to be diagnosed with ADHD?